Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program. As always, I am Dor. Today, we're going to go ahead and do a flyby, maybe a orbit around the moon, because we can't actually build a lander just yet. The landing struts that we have available currently aren't bigger than the rocket boosters, so we can't actually land without landing on our engines unless we want to strand one of our astronauts on the moon, which we kind of want to try and avoid right now. But all we need is another 20 science, and then we can unlock the smaller engines, and then that's going to allow us to actually build a proper kind of lander at the moment. But right now, this is the screen I was looking for last episode. This is going to tell us all of our science information and stuff from the planet that we've been on so far. And I think right now we don't have any more science we can gather from Kerbal itself because we have 33 out of 33. So I think we have everything we're going to get from it. I think anything else that we get from Kerbal is just going to be really incremental science points and not really worth our time. So let's go ahead and hop on over to the vehicle assembly building and build us a little launch thing here, a little rocket. Okay, so here it is. We have pretty much the same rocket that we had last episode. The only main difference is I believe we had 2 fuel tanks with a rocket booster and then another 4 fuel tanks with another rocket booster. So that's pretty much the main thing that changed. We just have one big solid fuel rocket going on in the middle here instead of having a 2-stage rocket, which I don't know if we're going to come back to kind of regret not having that, but we'll go ahead and see. Hopefully this is going to be enough to at least get us somewhere near the moon so we can at least try and gather some science here. So let's go ahead and launch. We also have Jebediah Kerman back for whatever reason. I'm not quite sure. I didn't get him out of the rocket or the astronaut building, so I don't know why he's back in the pilot seat here. But anyways, let's go ahead and launch. Hopefully these 4 are going to be enough to get us out of the atmosphere at least. That would be great. I also went ahead and threw an antenna on there just in case the rocket booster runs out of fuel and we have this guy just kind of orbiting the moon or orbiting the Kerbal here. So worst case scenario, he's going to be stranded. Best case scenario, he actually gets back to the planet here and we can gather as much science out of this as we can. Another thing I want to try and start doing is slowing down our rockets so that we're not burning up on leaving the planet anymore. So I don't know what speed we should be aiming for. I'm going to try and slow it down maybe till about, I think like 600, maybe 500, because I think we're taking damage on the equipment here, and I think we're also slightly slowing down because we are going so fast. I think there's kind of a negative to doing that, so we want to try and avoid doing it as much as we can. I'm going to try and quickly set a maneuver, and I think we need to move the blue one, and hopefully that's going to snap into an orbit, and it is. So let's quickly set this thing over to that. And we have 56 seconds until burn time. Let us go ahead and see where we are. I'm going to start burning around 30 seconds or so. And hopefully we're going to be able to go ahead and get into a decent orbit. And then we're going to be able to use this to kind of like throw ourselves to the moon here and then set ourselves into an orbit over there as well. So let's start burning now. And let's quickly switch back to this screen and see if we are looking good or not. And so far, so good. Ideally, I would wait until we got to the apex so we get the most bang for our buck here, but we really can't afford to do that too much here. We're at 100,000. I'm gonna set another one here. And then can we also expand out? Oops. No. What is that doing? Go away. Oh no, not this again. I'm going to kill the engine because I don't know where we're going now. This is going out of hand pretty quickly here. How do I get back to my rocket ship? Let's just do this. And for whatever reason, we're pointing at the planet now, so that's not great. Can I set the view back onto the rocket ship? Okay, I think this is going to be a failed attempt here because right now we are falling back into the atmosphere. I'm trying to get my ship to point out of the planet again. I don't know what I did wrong there. I might have just had it going too wrong there because of the way I tried to set a secondary maneuver, which kind of came back to bite us. We're also not going to get into orbit again, so we need to rearrange the rocket here. I just want to get high enough up that we don't re-entry, but we're going to re-enter the atmosphere anyways. You know what? We might as well get some science out of this if we're able to. Let's burn some more so that we're... Oh, you know what? That was a bad idea. Yeah, that was a real bad idea. Okay, well, oops. If we can go ahead and spin this around so that we are taking the brunt of the heat on the heat shield, that would be great. So let's quickly do a crew report, which is not going to generate anything. All right, that's not a good sign. Can we do this? We haven't done this yet. This thing blew up last time. So that's 22 science right there. That's going to be enough for a lander. I think. A little bit shy for a lander, but almost enough. Let's go ahead and close those doors. We can go ahead and open up this thing really quick and try and do some of these. So let's observe the mystery goo. Let's observe the pressure. We don't get anything from the mystery goo. Okay, we get 2 science from the pressure thing at least. The thermometer or the temperature gauge, nothing from that either. I'm just going to go ahead and do both of these just in case we get something. We don't get anything. Okay, so we have 1 mystery goo and 1 of the barometers used. And that's pretty much all we can do right now. Nothing else is available for us to interact with. So in a second, we're going to go ahead and go back and land in Kerbal. This might take us a little while because I did kind of set us into a little bit of an orbit, so we have to kind of air brake eventually and get back into the planet, but we can go ahead and solve that just by fast forwarding because there's not really much else we can do right now. We can't go back down because we have no more rockets. That was my bad. Let me go ahead and just fast forward it, and we will hopefully land, and I can go ahead and do another thing of science and maybe get enough to go ahead and unlock the landing legs or the little rocket engines. Okay, really quickly here, I wanted to go ahead and reset the modules because we're going to be at a height of 290,000 feet or meters, whatever this is, and we haven't been that high just yet. This is going to be the highest we've been, I believe, because we had 450 the last time, but we went ahead and went into the atmosphere and slowed ourselves down so much that we didn't actually get there. So I wanted to go ahead and save the science experiments because we have one of those containers in here, and I went ahead and did that. But when you do that, it actually locks the equipment so you can't use it again. So I didn't know how those things work, but now that I do know how that works, we can actually move this compartment up one, and then we can actually separate this one on re-entry so that we have less weight when we land, because this thing stores it and then these things are no longer usable. So if we have one of these container things with maybe 2 of these container units in it, we can go ahead and store a bunch of science and then jettison all the other science stuff that we can't use anymore, since it's just going to add weight to the spacecraft here. So that's a little rearrange that I can go ahead and do now that I know how it works. But in a second here, we're going to go ahead and gauge the temperature. I think, right, we didn't use either of the thermometers, so both of these should work. We're at 180,000 feet and it's not usable, so that's probably not a good sign. And the other barometer is also not usable either. So maybe right now when we hit 290, it's not going to be anything. It might just be that we're out there that far and we can't really do anything with it. Can we do a crew report this high? No, they don't give us anything either. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and hold off until we hit 290, and I'm gonna go ahead and give this another go and see if any of this stuff lets me go ahead and log anything new that we don't have just yet. Okay, so coming up on 290,000, we do get some more science. We're getting 7.5, so let's go ahead and hold on to that. Let's do a EVA, and then we can do a crew report or an EVA report. That's gonna generate another 12. So now we should be in the clear to go ahead and unlock the engines for sure. And I can't do that again. Can I do the other one? No, that was the surface sample is what I'm thinking of. Okay, so let's do the thermometer really quick. And we're getting another 12 science from that. And we can log the pressure data. That's another 18 science. That's fantastic. We do still have 1 mystery goose, so we can get some of that for this. And we're getting 15 from it, so that's great. And I think that's all we have, because I don't know if it's going to let me actually double up on all of the data for these things since I have doubles of these. I'm going to try it, but I don't think it's going to do anything. And we should be good. Let me go ahead and close the doors, and we just have to, I think, maybe orbit the planet once or twice until we're low enough to actually like get air braked into the gravity here. So give me a second. Okay, so we only had to actually orbit once to get back to this thing. So we are about to land, and we are still going pretty fast. The heat shield did do its job that time, though. We didn't have anything explode, so that's great. I'm going to go ahead and pop the parachute because we might as well have that going out now, just to go ahead and slow us down a little bit. And I think all of this stuff is good, right? I think it's good. Yeah, this thing still has durability on it, so I think we're fine. The parachute needs to pop, please. Please pop. Holy smokes, I thought I was going to kill this guy again. But there we go. We have 100 meters to go, and we're about to splash down, so we should be good to just go ahead and recover the vessel. I have it in warp. That's why everything's so wonky. Oops. But there we go. We can go ahead and do that. Actually, really quickly here, let me rotate this just a smidge so we don't have him get out in the water. And let's do another EVA. And can I have you do a surface sample from here? I can. That's a little bit more science. I'll go ahead and take it. Let's do another EVA report. We don't get anything for it. Never mind. So let's go ahead and board back in and jump back to the vehicle assembly building here. And we're actually going to go ahead and get 118 science for that. So that's more than enough to go ahead and unlock the little engines and the little smaller engines here. So let's do that. And we still have another 73 to go. So let's do the other flight control one so we get more wings and then the reaction wheel here. So let's get that thing going and we should be good. I'm going to go ahead and start going into maybe the 90s here because the plane one, I'm not too sure if we're going to mess with too much here. Okay, so we're still going to go ahead and try and do a flyby. I went ahead and rearranged the rocket just a little bit here. So we still have 4 solid rocket boosters. We have 4 liquid boosters as well now. And then I also went ahead and changed out all the fuel tanks to the new one that we just got. So it's a little bit bigger and I hope it's going to have a little bit more fuel going forward. And hopefully that is going to be the case. The other thing I changed was the little setup here. So now we can go ahead and jettison the science module here and just land with the capsule and the little storage compartment that has all of our science stuff in it. So we're going to go ahead and try and keep that in mind and let's go ahead and just launch and see if we can go ahead and do what we need to do here. And that's not a good sign. Right off the bat, we did kind of drop down just a little bit here, so we don't have enough thrust coming out of the engines, or the solid boosters anymore, to get up out of the orbit. So let's do this really quick. We might be burning a little bit more time than we should have been here, but let me go ahead and do that, see if that's going to be enough to kind of even out the thrust here. And it doesn't look like that's going to be enough. Let's activate our last engine as well. And are we getting enough thrust now? We are indeed. We're at 350 and still climbing slightly. So now we're going to go ahead and separate these solid boosters right about now. Those almost hit us on the way out there. That would have been really bad. And now we're climbing pretty good, so we can kind of throw the thrust down just a little bit here. We don't need to be burning that much fuel trying to get out of here. And as long as we keep going up, we are fine. I'm going to throttle down just a little bit more here. And there we go. We didn't burn up on exiting the atmosphere. So now that we're at 20,000 feet, I'm going to go ahead and start angling ourselves to the west, I believe. So we can go ahead and start getting into a little bit of an orbit and hopefully setting ourselves up a little bit better to get into a little bit easier of an orbit, and then sending ourselves off to the moon here. Let me try and go a little bit further. I'm trying to get to about the 60 to 90 degree mark here, and I want my guy just to go ahead and hold it there. I'm going to pop open the map really quick and see how we're doing. We're not doing too bad here. Let me see if... Actually, hold on. Don't do that. How high are we? We're at 100,000 just about. So let me go ahead and set a maneuver at the apex and see if we go ahead and do that and a little bit of that, a little bit more of the green, a little bit more of the blue. That's going to set us into an orbit of a pretty decent amount. So let me go ahead and set us onto the maneuver. And if I can get out of this screen, we're going to go ahead and spin toward the maneuver. And as we get there, I'm going to go ahead and start boosting. I think that's where I might have messed up a second ago on the last launch. I don't think I went ahead and toggled us to be on the maneuver, I don't think. I don't remember if I did or I didn't. So that might have been why we just started randomly pointing right back at the planet. That was my bad. But so far, so good. Let's try and keep an eye on the main boosters here. We might, again, not have enough fuel. I think we might need to just make like a massive, massive rocket to try and get into orbit here. I really want to try and avoid that, though. I'm going to actually kill the engines really quick and set up another maneuver really quickly here. Try and get into orbit again, and we're going to go ahead and throw ourselves back onto the maneuver and start burning so that we're burning closer and closer to the apex instead of burning randomly like we are right now. So let me clear that again, set it right before the apex, and fix it up again. Are we good? We're not good on that side of the planet, but we are good now. That should be fine. Let's set ourselves back onto that. And around 10 seconds, we're just going to go ahead and go full thrust for a second and see if we make a big jump in the gains here. Hopefully we do. We are kind of getting really, really close to the apex, to the point where if we mess one of these burns up, we're not going to have enough height to try and correct it. So we should be good. In about 10 seconds, come on. There we go. We're in orbit a little bit. 70,000, 100,000. Yeah, we are fine. We're not going to burn up in the atmosphere and lose any altitude, so we should be good. Let me go back over here. And do we have any fuel left in these rockets? We do not. Okay, so these guys are completely empty. Let's go ahead and separate those. Oh, that's bad. Let me get away from those a little bit. And now comes the fun part of trying to make it to the moon and back with a quarter of a fuel tank here. So that should be fun. We're going to go ahead and try and get there probably off of this side because we're further out from the planet here than we are there. We're going to have to deal with a little bit less gravity with this one here. So let's see. We have the moon over there, so that's good. I don't think we're going to be able to do it, but we can give it a try. And let's see here. We want to go ahead and boost out with the green one, and hopefully we can go ahead and get it to go around the moon. So if we do that, we have a connection with the moon, but I don't know if we're going to have enough fuel to do that. And I think if we do that, we're going to go ahead and get into an orbit around it, or at least near it. So let's try. What's the worst that can happen, right? The astronaut's going to get stranded and we're going to be out of Jebediah Kerbal for a little while until we can try and mount a rescue mission, which may or may not ever happen. But let's see. We're going to have to burn in 1 minute and 52 seconds. So I just want to go ahead and check all of this stuff. The best case scenario here, we do a flyby. We get as much science as we can, and then we have enough fuel to counter burn and land back on Kerbal. That would be ideal here. So let me go ahead and wait until we get around 35 seconds out, because we only have a burn time of 29 seconds and we should have enough fuel to do that. So we should be golden. So let's start burning now. We're at 30 seconds out and the burn time kind of moved a little bit. We only have to burn for 27 seconds. So we started burning a little bit early and we're barely scooching out the orbit here. I need you to just make like a huge leap and go toward the moon as quickly as you can here. We have 6 more seconds of burn time. We have plenty of fuel. As long as we don't try and set ourselves into an orbit around the moon, we should be fine. Let's do that. A little bit more, please. And I think we can leave it there. Let's burn a little bit. Ooh, that's a little bit too much, but that should be fine. We're pretty much where we set the motion up here. So now all we need to do is pretty much sit back and wait until we get toward the moon. That's pretty much all we have left to do. Okay, so I have a bit of bad news. I did not realize it, but if we go ahead and look at the orbit thing here, we actually aren't going to go ahead and connect with the moon until we go into this orbit for an entire year. A year, 2 days, and 5 hours is when we actually line up with the orbit of the moon to actually do a little flyby of it, and then we escape the moon's gravity and leave. So right now, all we're going to do is, I think, reach this point, and then the moon might not be anywhere near us, I don't think. Right now, if we go back into this view, there's the moon. We don't have enough fuel to try and rearrange our trajectory if we want to try and make it back to Kerbal. So I don't really want to strand this guy just yet. But yeah, we might just go out to this point and do a little bit of science research and then just kind of counter burn and land back in Kerbal, because there's not much else we can do right now. We need to get a little bit of a bigger rocket. We pretty much were able to get out here. We just might need like 2 more, maybe solid boosters to get us up out of the atmosphere instead of having to use any of our fuel rockets. And then I think we're good. We have all the fuel to rearrange ourselves to get into orbit around the moon, but we didn't have enough thrust with just the 4 solid boosters that we just had. So a little rearrange and we should be good. Just a little bit of an extra oomph to get out of the atmosphere. But let's continue to go ahead and time warp here. I'm pretty sure we're not going to get anywhere near this thing right now. Actually, look, it's really, really, really close. So if we wanted to, I think we can counter burn right now. I think, and it'll go ahead and throw us into an orbit around the moon, maybe. If I could close this thing, please. Okay, with a little bit of finagling on the thing here, we can get into a little bit of an orbit here. So it's not going to be very close. We're going to still be 300,000 feet above the surface, but I don't know if we have the fuel for it. I mean, if we do this, he's stranded. If we don't do it, then we can just try again in a minute. But I don't honestly want to strand the guys, so we're not going to do that burn. And we're just going to go ahead and see what this little trajectory turns. Ooh, what just happened? Oh, we are going to go ahead and do a flyby of the moon at 59,000 feet. That's fine, honestly. So we are going to get flung out. And I think we're going to go into this orbit, the golden orbit that's going around us right now. So we're at least going to get a very close flyby. And in that little time frame there, we're going to do all of our science stuff. We're going to do an EVA. We're going to do all the stuff that we've been doing around Kerbal, except we're going to do it around the moon. And hopefully that's going to result in some decent amount of science. So I'm going to go ahead and leave myself locked in retrograde so that we can go ahead and immediately start burning when we get back into the main orbit there around Kerbal to hopefully land again. And let's see, we're just going to go ahead and open all this stuff up and get ready for as much science as we can do. So I'm just going to open this guy as well. And I think we should be good to go. How long until we're at that range? An hour and 30 minutes. Okay, so let me go ahead and speed up time here because I'm not going to sit here for an hour and a half. And when we get to about here, I'm going to go ahead and start doing all the stuff because we're only going to be in this little area for maybe 20, 30 seconds, I think, with how fast we're moving. So we got to kind of be quick about it. Okay, so we're approaching the little point here. I don't know if we are actually doing, let me set this as target maybe, and it'll tell us the altitude from it. I don't know if this is telling us the altitude from the moon or if it's still telling us the altitude from the Kerbal thing over here, which wouldn't make any sense because we're only 170,000, 160 something thousand. So it must be telling us about the moon here. So we should be fine. Throwing it into a little bit more of a fast forward. We're pretty close to it right now. So yeah, we should be okay. Let me go ahead and time warp a little bit more so we're just a smidge closer to this thing. Hopefully the orbit here doesn't change and we just like rocket into the surface of the moon. That would be really bad. Okay, so it's going to be a little bit dark to see because we're on the dark side of the moon and there's no lights on our spacecraft currently, and there's not really much I can do about that until we research them, which is going to take a little while to get to, I think. So let's go ahead and do an EVA report right above the moon. We're getting 16 science from it. That's great. Let's go ahead and jump back into our ship before I accidentally let go and run into any issues. Let's go ahead and do the main big science thing and see what we're getting from that. 75 science. That's the most from one thing I think that we've gotten. So that's great. And let's also do the mystery goo and then the thermometers and the barometer things. Can I have my ship not be centered on the fuel thing? That would be cool. But I can go ahead and click on the thermometer, I believe. So there we go. Let's go ahead and log the temperature. We're getting 16 science from that. And then next to that should be the barometer. So let's go ahead and log the pressure. We're getting 24 science from that. This is going to be a really good mission if we're able to land back on Kerbal. That has to be the key here. So I think we don't need anything else from this. I am going to go ahead and just do all the other items here as well. Actually, hold on. I'm going to wait because we're not... Oh, actually, no, we're going past it already. We went down and we're going back out of the moon here. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on all the other things that we have here because if we're able to double up on the science, then we're going to go ahead and try and take advantage of that. If we're not and we're just kind of wasting time, then it is what it is. I'm not too worried about it. We need the other barometer. Can I click on that? It's kind of a weird angle. Oh, there we go. We can move our thing. Oh, I'm stupid. But there we go. We have all of the things checked and all of the science that we're going to get from it. I'm also going to go ahead and collect all of that data into this just so that we have it in our container. And now this thing is not usable, so we can go ahead and close it. And then all of the other things on here too, I believe, are going to be locked. I guess other than the barometers and all that stuff, the only thing that locked were the mystery goos and the big science thing here. So let me go ahead and close all the doors and see if I can maybe do a crew report. I didn't do that. That was my bad. I kind of missed out. We probably would have got a little bit of a better science thing there if I did it at the 59,000 feet. But let's also try and do another EVA and see if we get anything else. We might not. We're getting 16 for that one. And we should be good. Let's go ahead and get back on, and we can go ahead and keep that as well. So that's some more science for us. That's cool. And now what I'm going to go ahead and do is probably wait with our burn until we're over in this area of the apex, because over here we're going to have to burn longer to try and pull the orbit back down toward Kerbal. But if we wait until we're at this side of the apex over on the left, we can go ahead and burn maybe less time and then probably come in for a steeper landing, which might be a little bit bad, but it might be a little bit good. So I'm going to go ahead and just start time warping and see if we are going to go ahead and get back into the orbit around Kerbal, or if we're going to go ahead and get into an orbit around something that we don't really want to do, which we are getting around Kerbal, so that's great. All right, so we have 3 minutes until we need a burn, and hopefully we have enough fuel to go ahead and get into this trajectory that's going to allow us to go and land back on Kerbal. So I don't know how we go about locking our camera back to our spacecraft. That's why it's kind of targeting Kerbal still, or Kerbal, because I can't get it to lock back onto the spacecraft, but it is what it is, I guess. We have 2 minutes left, so I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit more time warping here until we're about 30 seconds out, because apparently we only need a burn for 3 seconds. So we should be good. Actually, I'm going to leave it at a minute, and I'm actually going to go ahead and start burning now, just so that we can go ahead and see if we need to burn more or less, and we should be good. So that looks like the right trajectory, and we're going in at 40,000 meters, so that's going to be low enough to go ahead and get air braked a little bit to slow us way, way down and hopefully get into a landing area. And then what I want to also do before we go ahead and time warp again, I want to set another maneuver here to drop the orbit a little bit further down so that we don't have to come all the way back out here, and maybe that'll be good. Or maybe we don't even need to do that because we're just going to make the entrance even sharper and we're going to be going even faster. So you know what? Let's actually not do another maneuver. We're going to go ahead and separate the fuel tank somewhere around here. And then hopefully that's going to be enough to get back into the orbit here. We need to separate the fuel tank and the science thing before we start going through the atmosphere because we don't have a heat shield on the science thing. The heat shield is separating the container and the science unit now. So we can't have that with us when we start going through the atmosphere. Okay, so some good news. I put it into fast forward mode and I went a little too fast. And so we're past the point of entry into the atmosphere and we're going all the way back out there. So I'm going to quickly throw a maneuver down and try and just burn and cut the orbit down as much as I can. So all we need to do is move this one and we are going to go ahead and break into 15,000 meters. That's going to be more than enough to actually force us to have to land. So I'm going to let my ship move on over to that thing. And once it gets there, I'm just going to go ahead and immediately start burning because we don't have that much fuel left. So I'm not too worried about it. In all honesty, we're going to land in the ocean. So we should be good. We're already there. So let's start burning. And let's just go ahead and go until we can't go anymore, which should be about there. I don't want to make the entry too steep. Again, I don't want to be going super, super fast, and we should be good there. I'm just going to go ahead and separate now. Either we're good or we're not, and separating now is either going to help us or it's going to hurt us. So let's separate you. Let us separate the science thing because we don't have a use for it anymore. The antenna went with it. Did this thing break? It didn't break. Okay. So all we need to do pretty much is click the retrograde button. That's going to rearrange our cockpit here so that when we start going through the atmosphere, it's going to automatically set the heat shield to pretty much take the brunt of the heat. So now we should be fine. I'm just going to go ahead and throw it into a time warp again, and we should air brake enough to actually land on the planet. It's going to automatically slow us down anyways, so I don't accidentally kill this dude on entry, but we should be fine, I believe. So that's a good sign. We're going about 3,000 meters a second, which is not a good sign, but we are hitting the atmosphere and we're dropping. So we will land. Whether or not we're alive and able to gather the science, that's going to be a different story here. So I want to go ahead and quickly look at this and just see if we're losing orbit, and we are indeed. Okay, so the orbit is pulling in. We are landing hopefully on this run, but our stuff is heating up pretty bad. I think we might have the stuff in the container heating up, actually. It might be clipping through the heat shield because the heat shield is fine. I see multiple health bars there. Something else is damaging underneath the heat shield here, which is unfortunate for us. There's really not much we can do as long as it doesn't explode. And the heat thing disappeared, so we are fine. So yeah, we should be good. We're going to get a ton of science from this. I think we're going to get like 100 and something or close to about 200 science. So we can immediately buy into another tier of something that we can use. All right, great. We actually landed. We have all of our science stuff intact. I'm going to quickly just do an EVA just to see if this is a place we don't have yet and maybe get a little bit more science before we go ahead and turn the ship back in. So let's do a surface sample. We're getting 9 science. That's great. Let's do an EVA report. We're getting another 2 point something science. Let's plant a flag so we know we've been here. And I'm going to go ahead and jump back in the ship and get back on over to the science building here. So we're getting 214 science from from that mission, which is pretty good. Some of these things do say 0, so maybe those are the ones we doubled up on, like the goo machine things. Instead of just using one, we use both, so we're only getting science for one and not the other, I think is what's going on here. But nonetheless, we're up to 242 science, so we can go ahead and research into some other stuff on the tech tree here, which I think we desperately need. I'm going to go ahead and do this one just so we get another solid rocket booster and some new engines. Those are going to come in handy. I'm also going to go ahead and do this one, the fuel systems, because that's going to give us fuel lines to go ahead and try and daisy chain fuel tanks together to try and conserve fuel in certain rockets. That's going to come in handy as well. And then with the 60 science that we have left over, I'm just going to go ahead and buy into the aviation tree here. Just in case we want to go ahead and build a plane, we can go ahead and do that with this. So now we have 3 more trees unlocked. We're going to have more stuff to go ahead and build rockets with. But for today, that's actually going to go ahead and be it. So hope you guys enjoyed as always, and I'll catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching.